16,000 feet of crushing dark. Down there, in a place no human eyes were meant to see, something has been waiting. A steel tomb. A weapon. A secret the world's superpowers pretended never existed. But the truth didn't disappear. It was buried. And what the CIA built to retrieve the secret was unlike anything the world had ever seen. This isn't conspiracy. This isn't fringe theory. This is documented, declassified, and deliberately hidden beneath a mountain of engineered silence. Because the CIA didn't just attempt the impossible. They almost pulled it off. March 1968. A Soviet ballistic missile submarine, designated K-129, stops answering commands.
Капитан, немедленно подтвердите получение.
Москва требует ответа. Действуйте согласно уставу.
No distress call. No emergency beacon. Nothing but static. The USSR panics. 3 nuclear missiles were on board. 98 sailors. Classified navigation logs. Encrypted communication systems. Nuclear launch keys. A floating Cold War nightmare. The Soviet Navy launches a massive search. Air crews, warships, recon flights. They comb thousands of square miles of the Pacific Ocean, but they find nothing. The Soviet Union quietly gives up, but the United States, they don't. Because America has something the Soviets didn't. SOSUS. Undersea hydrophone network, capable of triangulating acoustic events across entire ocean basins. The moment K-129 imploded, SOSUS heard it. A spike of sound, metal collapsing under unimaginable pressure. One violent pulse in an otherwise empty ocean. A location was calculated. A single set of coordinates, right there, at 16,000 feet. The CIA looked at the numbers, and they saw an opportunity that bordered on impossible. There's a detail almost never discussed. One of the Soviet aircraft sent to search for K-129 never made it back. A Tupolev Tu-95 Bear reconnaissance plane loaded with magnetic detection gear left its base in Kamchatka in the early hours of March 12th. It was supposed to sweep a corridor of the ocean for any trace of the missing submarine. Oil slicks, debris fields, chemical signatures, acoustic anomalies. But halfway through the mission, the aircraft veered violently off course. Its radio transmission became fragmented. The crew reported cockpit vibration, instrument errors, and then silence. No mayday, no coordinates, just an aircraft vanishing in the same location as a lost nuclear sub. The Soviet military quietly retrieved what little wreckage they could gather. A torn tail assembly, a wheel strut, a single piece of fuselage. But something was missing. The flight recorder, the black box. Officially, it was never recovered. Unofficially, the CIA had it. Now, If that line is accurate, the CIA didn't just track down the submarine's death. They listened to the final minutes of the aircraft sent to find it. A second life swallowed by the same stretch of ocean. No public statement. No acknowledgement. Just another layer of silence, stacked on top of the first. If this transmission still reaches you, subscribe. Keep the signal alive so you don't miss an episode. If the CIA could recover K-129, even partially, they'd gain Soviet nuclear warhead design, guidance systems, missile circuitry, encryption keys, communication logs, and potentially the Soviet Navy's entire nuclear command protocol. It would be the greatest intelligence windfall of the Cold War. But there was one problem. No machine on Earth could lift a 2,000-ton submarine from 3 miles beneath the ocean. At least, none that existed. The CIA needed money, technology, cover, and a man so eccentric to sign off on something insane. They needed Howard Hughes, the richest, most unpredictable industrialist in America. A man who built giant aircraft, casinos, spy satellites, and who loved nothing more than secrecy. The CIA approached him, quietly, privately. They didn't tell him everything. They don't have to. Hughes agrees to let his corporation front the mission. And a fake story is crafted. A deep ocean mining project to collect manganese nodules from the sea floor. The public buys it. The press buys it. Even the Soviets buy it. But none of that mattered, because the CIA began building something. A ship so large, a ship unlike the world had ever seen, designed solely to lift one thing: a sunken nuclear submarine off of the ocean floor. Her name? The Glomar Explorer. The most expensive ship on Earth. Contracts go out quietly. Numbers that should have raised alarms. They're hidden inside obscure line items. Billions of dollars move on paper, through shell companies and Hughes subsidiaries. The Glomar Explorer takes shape. A 600-foot vessel, a central moon pool, a covert capture bay inside of the hull, lifting apparatus engineered to raise buildings, and a mechanical claw named Clementine. Steel stronger than anything used in the civilian industry. Stabilizers to keep the ship motionless over a single point of ocean. This wasn't a ship. It was an engine of deception built around a retrieval machine. Every bolt, every weld, every pipe, every piece of classified engineering was built for one mission. And in July 1974, the ship leaves Long Beach. Destination? A point in the Pacific no one was supposed to know existed. The Soviets take the bait. When the Glomar Explorer arrives above the wreck site, Soviet vessels approach on the horizon, shadowing, circling, watching. But the cover story holds. The Soviets believe the ship is on a civilian mining expedition with zero political value. They don't interfere. Meanwhile, a massive steel claw begins its descent, It takes hours to reach the seabed. 3 miles down, in freezing darkness, Clementine locks onto K129, and the lift begins. Steel groans, hydraulics strain, the cables creak under enormous tension, and for the first time since 1968, the submarine begins to rise. Slowly, inches per hour, through crushing darkness. If the CIA succeeds, this will be one of the single greatest intelligence thefts in human history. But they don't succeed. Well, not completely anyway, because halfway through this ascent, disaster strikes. One section of the submarine breaks apart. 2/3 of the wreck falls back into the abyss, to be gone forever. But a section remains, a forward hull compartment. It's the part which is enough to matter, enough to keep the CIA silent for decades. The Glomar Explorer retrieves part of the submarine, but not the commanding officer's quarters, not the nuclear firing keys, not the full missile bay. Still, what they did recover was extraordinary. Inside the forward section were 2 nuclear torpedoes, missile guidance components, cryptographic materials, logbooks, classified equipment, and the remains of several Soviet sailors. During the classified offloading of the recovered hull section at Hughes facility in Long Bay, a team of naval divers were assigned to inspect the moon pool cradle for stress fractures. Now, the job is quite simple. Verify structural integrity before the operations continue. But what they find is not simple. One diver, whose name is later redacted from every surviving document, files a brief clinical report. He files unidentifiable biological remains observed within the forward capture bay, not consistent with any known profiles. Now, the phrasing is vague on purpose. Another diver who was interviewed decades later under the same condition of anonymity says only this: "We expected bodies. We did not expect that when pressed, he would refuse to elaborate." In the next round of declassified material, this entire section of the transcript is simply removed. It's gone. Excised. No explanation, no correction. Just white space. Space where testimony should be. Maybe it was distortion from pressure. Maybe it was decomposition. Maybe it was something else. Something that didn't match conventional expectations of what a human body looks like 3 miles down. Whatever they saw, someone decided the public did not need to know. The CIA film crew records a funeral at sea. A full ceremony, flags, prayers. The bodies lowered with honour into the Pacific. This footage remains classified for decades, until the 1990s, when the CIA director Robert Gates quietly hands a copy to the Russian government. Why did they film it? Why did they keep it? Why release it so late? No one gives answers. The missing section, the lost 2/3 of the submarine, is where the story becomes darker. Because what was in that section was the Nuclear Communications Center. Cryptographic safes, launch keys, command codes, classified missile designs, atomic weapon systems, electronic warfare components, and these were all gone. All still sitting on the ocean floor today. And here's where Project Azorian becomes something else entirely, because the CIA planned a second mission, Azorian 2. There was more funding, more ships, a second attempt to recover the missing section. But before it could start, the program collapses. Howard Hughes himself becomes engulfed in scandal. Congress is asking questions. Leaks appear in the newspaper. Political pressure rises. And just like that, Project Azorian ends. Quietly, abruptly. Papers filed away. Doors closed. What we have today is the part they allow us to see. And as we know, that's never much. There's one detail hidden in this story that almost no one talks about. The CIA needed a legal way to deny everything without technically lying. So they invented a phrase. A sentence that now lives in American legal doctrine. We can neither confirm nor deny the existence or non-existence of the information requested. This is the direct result of Project Azorian leaks. The Glomar response, a linguistic shield designed for secrecy in a world where silence was no longer enough. This response would go on to be used for UFO programs, satellite networks, stealth projects, nuclear treaties, intelligence operations, anything the government wanted buried. Project Azorian didn't just hide a submarine. It gave the government an entirely new language to hide virtually anything. Forever. K129, it's still down there. 3 miles beneath the waves. Cold, silent, torn apart. The part the CIA raised has been studied, analysed and dissected. But the section they lost, the one the Soviets never found, the one containing the heart of their nuclear command systems, well, that part remains untouched. Somewhere in the dark, and maybe it's better that way. Maybe the ocean was meant to keep some secrets. Maybe the truth behind Project Azorian was never meant to rise to the surface. Or maybe the truth is that the most important stories don't just disappear. They're just buried where only the patient, the persistent, are willing to look. Thanks for joining me here today. And remember, they rely on you forgetting, on you clicking away. Don't do it. Go deeper down the rabbit hole with this next video. And to make sure the signal can find you again, join the network. Click subscribe here. And keep the light alive. For this is Thinkavarium.